past, to the future, past, to the future.
Hello, everyone. This is the Prime Commander, and today we're going to be reviewing the 1978 Superman the Movie Christopher Reeve figure from McFarlane Toys. So, the first thing I would like to point out is that I've been a Superman fan for nearly as long as I can remember. I remember, or one of the oldest memories I have is when I first became aware of Superman. It was Superman the movie, this particular movie, the 1978 film, when it was shown on TV in the early 80s. And I was very young at the time, 3 or 4, and it's amazing that I can remember that far back. But I do remember distinctly watching it at my grandmother's house, and I'm sure it probably was one of the two-parters. I think it may have been the last part of the movie, and I went upstairs to watch the film. And I remember coming downstairs and talking to my cousins and saying Superman's amazing, and they were telling me that Superman wasn't real, but I was so young at the time that I believed that he was real because I saw him on TV, and that was my explanation for why he was real. One of the things that was perfect for me at that time, because I had just gotten into toys. I always was into toys, but I was mainly into cars when I was very young. And then Superman is what really knocked my socks off. And it was just in time because I remember wanting figures, and that is when the Kenner Superpowers line was announced, and it came out and later that year, and I remember getting them for Christmas. I still remember the first Superpowers figure I received, which was Flash from Kmart. And so, but Superman has just always been my favorite superhero. I've been a Superman collector for a very long time, and the Christopher Reeve movies are very special to me. So I've always longed for figures based off of the Superman movie properties, and thankfully, after years passed, we finally were able to get some. Mattel made figures. Who was it? Hot Toys made figures, and NECA. And they've all had very success on the lines. All of them are incomplete, very strange choices for the lines. So I'm always still looking for a proper Superman movie line for the Christopher Reeve movies. So with this new figure, despite some of the flaws, which aren't many, I do hope that this line continues on. So let's get to the figure. So I must state that I don't really collect the McFarlane DC lines. I have a few of them, and they're really only purchased if they fit in with maybe the Mattel DC line, DC Universe Classics, because I have most of those, or if they go along with something else, maybe a larger figure to go along with one of the older lines that I have. But I do have a few odds and ends, and I think that this figure has the basic standard articulation. Overall, I think the figure is decent. I think the likeness is acceptable. Not perfect, but it is acceptable. Nobody has truly captured Christopher Reeve's likeness like Hot Toys has. And I know Hot Toys is a super deluxe line, but they absolutely nailed it. And everybody that has also produced figures have done it, whether it be NECA or Mattel, they've always captured his likeness with varying degrees of success. But overall, I think that McFarlane did a decent and acceptable job, and so I'm at a good plus with this. The figure does come with a standard array of accessories. You get 8 hands. You get a useless card. I'm really tired of the cards because I feel like they're wasteful, at least for me, and I really don't know what to do with them. So it ends up creating a waste for me with the cards. But either which way, a nice little pack-in for those that appreciate them, and you also get a nice figure stand. McFarlane stands are very good, except for there's just not a lot of dynamic range of of motion that you can do, because it's just stuck at that one height and you can't really move it all around. But at least the joint where you have to adjust where it clamps onto the figure, that has some nice range of motion, and that also comes with this figure. With my figure, there was a loose left shoulder joint, so that was a little bit of disappointment. Also, I really just do not like the elbow articulation. I think that it just is very ugly, and it just is very exaggerated, and it just doesn't work well for the figure. But I do love the wired cape. I think that the wired cape is perfect. It is the perfect length. One of the things that is a pet peeve of mine is if Christopher Reeve's cape is not the proper length. Sometimes it could be too short, like the NECA. But this, I think they did an excellent job on the cape. And also, I think the colors are amazing. My pictures don't really do the figure justice. You have to see it more in a natural lighting, and they really do pop. They really come off as like an 80s style color, like the Superpowers lines, just really bright, vibrant, really matching Christopher Reeve's outfit. And so I think that's a major plus for me. I really do love the colors. And so I think overall it is a, very good figure. My only real, I won't necessarily say complaint, but some of the issues that I might have with it is that it does have the loose shoulder joint, which might not be common to everybody, and it also has that horrible elbow joint. And I think the cost is a little bit excessive. $30. I think it should be $25. But either which way, I think overall, I do enjoy this figure. I really hope that he fleshes out the line with all the movies. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a person who wants a Miss Tessmacher and an Otis, and I want a Nuclear Man figure. I really. I'm not one of those people who bash Superman 4. I know it's problematic, but I always thought Nuclear Man was a great concept, maybe poor in execution, but a great concept, and he had a great outfit. So I'm all for this line continuing on. Let's do Superman 1, let's get those figures out, let's do Superman 2. And even though he did give us the bad Superman figure, that should have been a standard release, because I wouldn't mind a Gus Gorman figure. And also with Superman 4, let's get a Nuclear Man in there. So I'm happy with this figure overall. I think that that this is a good step in the right direction, and we may see more. I like what he's doing with the Batman movie figures, even though I don't collect them. I have the '89 Batmobile with the Keaton Batman, and that's sufficient for me. I'm not a super fan of the Batman movies outside of getting the Joker. I don't need the rest of them. And I wasn't a fan of those movies anyway. So, but it seems like McFarlane has fleshed out those movies, so I would like to see him do the same thing for the Superman Christopher Reeve films. So the pros for me are the colors. I think that they're really good. Another pro is the wired cape, and I also enjoy the body type. I didn't mention that before, but one of the problems that I had with the NECA figure was that the body type to me was not right. He had really, thin boogie whip arms, and he didn't have Christopher Reeve's proper muscular stature, or the figure didn't have Christopher Reeve's proper stature. And I think that this is where McFarlane, has excelled at, because that body type to me is a lot more accurate than the NECA figure. And I do own the NECA figure, and it's a shame I didn't have it out for this review, but I may do a couple of pictures, do a versus or something like that, and post that later. The cons for me is the loose elbow joint. Not the loose elbow joint, the loose shoulder joint, and the ugly elbow joint, and the cost. But those things are really small. So if we look at the rating chart for the design, I gave the figure a 25. I think the design overall is good. In terms of accuracy, I give it another 25. For the worth, I give it a 15. I think that even including the card and the figure stand, it really is not worth $31, and I think that it should have been 25 at the most. The quality, I give it a 15, only because mine has some issues with the loose left shoulder joint, for a total of 80, and that puts it in the range of a decent figure. So A plus for Well, it wouldn't be an A plus if it's 80 to 70 to 84 and decent, but you guys understand it's a pretty decent figure. It could be better, but I'm happy with it. So, I think that that's the most important thing, is that even though there are some cons, overall, I'm very happy and pleased with the figure. I just wish that it was just a little bit cheaper, and, it could have been a factory issue with the one shoulder joint, but the elbow, I'm sorry, with the shoulder joint, but the elbow is really ugly. I think that McFarlane really needs to adjust that. And it seems like that has been a problem with DC. I remember when Mattel wanted to include that extra shoulder joint, and it created like that gorilla look for their DC Universe line. It was just like, oh my gosh, how did they screw that up in this modern era? And so, but my complaints are very small. It's a decent figure. I would encourage for those that are on the fence to go out and buy it. I think that you'll be happy, and I hope to see more.
It's amazing, quite amazing. The adventures that we share, they're amazing, forever amazing.